All right, welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're tackling a topic that I think we all have
Yeah.
a bit of experience with mistakes,
Yeah.
but not just your everyday oops moments.
Right.
We're really going to dig deep into how these so-called failures
Yeah.
or mistakes can actually be some of our best learning experiences.
Absolutely.
You know, the source material that we have here for today's deep dive is really interesting.
Yeah.
It argues that our mistakes and our failures are actually like the key to unlocking our full
Yeah.
potential or something. It's a pretty bold idea, I think.
It is, but I think it's also very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Let's see if this passage can shed some light on this whole idea.
Sure.
Okay, it says here, mistakes and failures are precisely your means of education. They tell you about your own inadequacies. That's powerful stuff. Okay, so
It is.
this is almost saying that mistakes are like,
Like a good thing.
yeah, like a good thing. Help me out here a little. What does it actually mean to see our mistakes as, quote, means of education?
You know, I think it's about shifting our perspective on those mistakes.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing them as some kind of personal failing, we should be looking at them as like valuable data.
Data. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a signal that's flashing, saying,
Wow.
hey, pay attention. There's something that you can learn here.
So it's not about like dwelling on the mistake itself, right?
Right.
It's more about what we can learn from that experience.
Absolutely. It's all about the learning.
Okay, so how do we do that then? How do we actually extract that knowledge from our mistakes?
Well, I like to think about it like this.
Okay.
Imagine you're trying to get somewhere. You've got a destination in mind, but along the way, you take a wrong turn.
Yeah, been there.
Right. Instead of getting all frustrated and giving up, you would probably consult a map,
Yeah, definitely.
see where you went off course, and then adjust your route to get back on track.
Okay.
Mistakes work in a similar way. They basically highlight those gaps.
Gaps in our knowledge.
Yeah, in our knowledge or skills,
Or maybe even
or
like...
even in our decision-making processes.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's like instead of beating ourselves up for taking that wrong turn,
Exactly.
we use it as an opportunity to learn, find a better path.
That's it.
So you actually shared some personal experiences of the source material. One story in particular really stood out to me.
Oh, yeah.
It was about a time when you misjudged a business deal. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what happened there and how you were able to turn that mistake into a learning experience for yourself.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough lesson for me.
I bet.
I was so focused on just closing the deal, on getting it done,
Yeah.
that I completely overlooked some really critical red flags that were right there in the contract.
Oh,
Yeah, it ended up costing the company a lot of time and money.
oh, that's really stressful.
That-
So what did you do after that happened?
Well, I had to take a step back. First, I had to really acknowledge my own role in the mistake.
Right.
I realized that I had let my enthusiasm kind of cloud my judgment, and I hadn't done enough due diligence up front. But, then I went back and really analyzed the whole situation. I
Okay.
wanted to figure out exactly where I went wrong.
Yeah.
I even developed a checklist based on that experience.
A checklist?
Yeah, to use for future deals.
To make sure that...
So I wouldn't repeat the same mistakes.
That's brilliant. So you took this really tough experience and you actually turned it into a system
It's a system, yeah.
to prevent those same errors from happening again.
Exactly. And I think this is a strategy that anyone can use.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Tell me more.
So, anytime you make a significant mistake, just ask yourself 3 questions.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with them.
Okay, number 1, what happened? Number 2, why did it happen? And number 3, what can I do differently next time to avoid making that same mistake?
I love that. It's so simple and actionable.
Simple but effective.
But I'm sensing that there's more to it than just like a checklist or a system.
Right.
It seems like mindset also plays a big role here.
It does. I think it's about cultivating what we call a growth mindset.
A growth mindset. Tell me more about that.
Well, instead of seeing your abilities as fixed, you're either good at something or you're not.
Yeah.
You embrace the idea that you can always learn, always improve.
You're always growing, always learning.
Exactly. And this means looking at challenges as opportunities
Opportunities, yeah.
for growth and seeing those setbacks as temporary and something that you can overcome.
This makes me think about something you mentioned earlier
Oh, yeah.
about the different types of mistakes.
Oh, yes. Right.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I think that would be really helpful for our listeners.
Absolutely. So there are 3 main types of mistakes.
Okay.
The first one is Let's call them knowledge-based mistakes.
Knowledge-based.
This is when we just don't have the information.
We don't know what we don't know.
Exactly. The second type is skill-based mistakes.
Skill-based, okay.
This is where we might have the knowledge, but we haven't quite mastered the execution yet.
We know what to do, we just don't know how to do it well.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, and then what was the third type?
And finally, we have judgment mistakes.
Judgment mistakes.
And this is where we might actually have both the knowledge and the skills, but we make a poor decision.
Interesting.
It's all about decision-making there.
Okay, so we've got these 3 different types of mistakes.
Right.
Knowledge-based, skill-based, and judgment mistakes.
Exactly.
And I imagine that the learning process is probably going to look different depending on which type of mistake we've made, right?
Absolutely. Spot on. So for those knowledge-based mistakes,
Yeah.
the solution is usually pretty simple. You just need to do some research. You need to study and acquire that missing information.
Just fill in those knowledge gaps.
Yeah. For skill-based mistakes, it's all about practice.
Practice makes perfect, or at least better, right?
Right. You need to refine your skills and get better at actually executing them.
Okay, and then what about those judgment mistakes? What do we do about those?
Well, that's where it gets a little more complex.
Okay.
Because those often involve taking a hard look at ourselves, examining our biases, our assumptions, and really dissecting our decision-making processes to figure out where we went wrong.
So it's almost like mistakes can be an opportunity for self-discovery as well.
Definitely, it's a chance to learn more about ourselves and how we operate in the world.
This is all incredibly insightful. I'm really starting to see mistakes in a whole new light.
I'm glad to hear that.
So if we connect this back to you listening to this deep dive right now, I want you to think about a mistake that you've made recently.
It could be big or small, anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the size of the mistake, just something that you can reflect on. Now consider, what type of mistake was it? What did it actually reveal about your knowledge, your skills, or even your judgment? And how can you use those insights to grow and improve?
It's all about that continuous learning journey.
Exactly. So, to sum it all up, I think it's safe to say that mistakes are not the enemy.
Not at all.
They're actually powerful tools for learning and for growth if we're willing to approach them with the right mindset.
I completely agree.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive, and I really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today.
For sure.
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Definitely.
But before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners? Something to leave them pondering as they continue on their own learning journeys?
Sure. How about this? I want you to think about how you can apply this new perspective on mistakes, this idea of them being valuable learning opportunities, to the challenges that you're currently facing in your life.
That's a good one.
Or even to the goals that you're striving to achieve.
Because even when we stumble, we can use those experiences to learn and adapt.
Exactly. Every stumble is a chance to come back stronger.
Amazing. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.